Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video.
Well, welcome to Friday, the 2nd of December here at Giga-Texas, and I hope you got a chance to watch the delivery event last night of the semi, which is pretty cool. Now this morning when I got here, the fog was pretty heavy. I was able to fly about half of the normal drone flight before a really dense amount of fog came in, so I had to stop and wait a couple of hours to continue and finish up the video. But despite the challenges with the weather this morning, some very interesting things to see. We'll talk about three things here in the intro. First, down on the south end, as you can see by this image, not only are they continuing to install these very large concrete water pipes in that west section that's been cleared out, but also we see deliveries of even larger corrugated steel pipes that will also be installed in this same area. Now what's interesting is that previously, maybe about 8 months ago, they installed a lot of this corrugated steel piping under this area as well. So maybe this is an expansion of some of the water management system. The next thing I want to show you is up here at the battery cathode plant. You can see on that west foundation side a lot of activity. We see geopier work, we see soil test sampling work, we see trenching with large white pipes being installed, and now we see the footings being excavated and formwork being installed to allow the footings to be created or constructed. These will be what we see steel columns attached to build the entire structure of this building. So a lot of great progress here. And then the last area I want to talk about is right here up at the electrical switch yard. And as we've seen before, they've been assembling these large A-frame structures, and this will be what carries the high tension wires from the power lines to the electrical switch yard and then over to the transformers, and then ultimately this will power Giga-Texas. Today we see two more of those A-frame structures have been assembled or are in the process of being assembled. Also, as you can see by this image, there's some trench work being done by that control room. And this is very interesting development to see as well. So a lot of progress at the electrical switch yard. Despite the weather, I was able to see quite a bit more very interesting details, particularly over at that East Mall parking lot where they're putting superchargers in. So make sure you check a look at the entire video. I hope you have a great weekend, and as always, thank you very much for your support and for watching my videos. Take care.
My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. On this foggy morning, I thought I would start west of the highway on the southwest side and give you a view of some interesting developments here. And this is a new, or at least a return to earthwork in this field of old hills and ponds from the abandoned sand and gravel mining. You can also see the water tank here on the bottom center of the screen. That's an indication that the work here is going to be ongoing for quite some time, which is great to see. Now you can see the earthwork machinery on the left-hand side of the screen, and as I was getting ready to leave later today, this morning, you could see even more had arrived onto site. So it's very interesting to see the resumption of the earthworking on this side of the highway. Also, as we approach this material staging location, you can see even more earthwork being done north and south on the west side of the entire staging location. And as I turn the drone a little bit further to the north, you'll be able to see just how much is being leveled out, which may suggest that they're going to be widening this section. And also you can see right down the middle of the area that has that tan gravel mix, they have those markers for parking. I think this is going to be turned into some sort of trailer staging location, possibly to help with the East Side warehouse on wheels, and we'll see some changes over there a little later in the video. But as I fly up towards the north along the middle section of this staging location, you can see the changes here where the parking locations are and all of the materials that are stockpiled. But on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see quite a bit more of that earthwork that is underway. Now on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see these large steel tanks. I think these are going to go to the battery cathode plant. You can also see some of the rails that are going to be used inside the casting machine structure. Here you see one of the earthworking vehicles getting this section kind of leveled out, which is, again, a very interesting development that I was kind of surprised to see this morning. Now you can also see just how much more of the materials are being staged on this section today. In addition to that, quite a bit of the trailers, some corrugated pipe off to the left, and just a variety of different materials that are used throughout the entire construction site. Now as I continue this turn around 180 degrees, this gives you a really good view of the earthwork that's going on this west side and how possibly they're going to be widening this material staging location. So let's proceed back over to the factory. We'll get a chance to take a look at some of it before the heavy fog rolls in. Here we've crossed over the highway and we're near the main entrance. You can see that landscaping area onto the bottom right. And you can see how the removal work of the concrete apron appears today. Obviously there's been some rain, so you can see the ponding of the water. But also they've been busy removing even more of the stairs. In fact, quite a bit of the top landing has now been removed. You can see that kind of a white filler material has been broken up as well, and they also are closing into the base of the foundation where those glass doors are being protected by that black fence and that white and red wrapping. I'm going to be giving you a good view of how this apron looks today with the concrete removal. One of the interesting things is the markings on this side, which used to mirror the side on the left-hand side. Looks like they're maybe changing that a bit as more of the concrete's been removed in a different pattern that we see on the left-hand side, which is just coming underneath the bottom of the image. But overall, this is how the west main entrance looks today and the continued progress with removing the concrete, preparing for future construction. One of the things I noticed here, I'll just pointing out, is on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see kind of a plastic wrapped enclosure over where these stairs are. It's possible that they are doing some reconfiguration work here on this entrance near where all of these receiving doors were added. Also, you can see more of the Model Ys being stored in this particular location, more in the overflow lot on the right-hand side of the screen. And on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see another line of Model Ys preparing to be driven over to the east side for staging and truck pickup. This is a really good view of the work that's going on this west side, where they are continuing to install these concrete water pipes in this trench. And you can see the trench box protecting the workers at the bottom of the trench to keep it from collapsing in. You can also see some excavators doing some more moving of the dirt, preparing possibly for some more trenching. And you can see one of those concrete pipe segments getting ready to be lowered into the trench that we see here with the workers. Now as I pull back, one of the things you'll notice is there's a variety of angled pieces. There's concrete pipes and then also a new shipment of very large corrugated steel pipes. And what's very interesting is directly underneath this area, in fact about where the excavator is working, is a underground system of these corrugated pipes and also a splitter box which directs the storm water, some of it into this cyber pond. And it looks like they may be modifying that water management system. So it's definitely something to watch. As I do this 360-degree turnaround, I'm going to show you right across this road. You can see where they cut through the road and repaved. It looks like they're working on some more parts of this area where they've been installing water pipes, blue water pipes. And right now they're rolling out some sort of material here. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it looks like they're preparing to continue to extend that water pipe under the ground on this section of the construction site. Now I'll give you a quick view of the south end material staging area with the steel parts, other components, some of the solar panels. You can also see that the fog is starting to really roll in right now. So I'll just continue a little bit more of the flight, and then we're going to have to wait for a few hours and then resume the flight. But here you can see quite a bit of the steel materials on the bottom of the screen, where this is where the underground conduit and the concrete vaults are being installed. I believe this is where power will be connected that goes to those underground vaults, and eventually I think it will be replacing all of these low-level power poles and power lines. As I turn the drone back towards the building and then towards the west, you can see how this entire lot looks now with almost all of the concrete removed. We can see some more concrete has been removed in some of these sections here, just a small section remaining, and then yet another truck delivering more of these connector pieces for these large steel corrugated pipes. So let's watch it unload and move it over to where they're storing the pipes. So one thing to note with all these pipes is compared to the size of the truck, just to give a good scale to how large these corrugated pipes truly are. Now we're going to continue back towards the east. You can see the loading platform is busy today. More work going on inside these two doors where the stamping extension is located and also where they are assembling the AIDA stamping press. Looks like some more deliveries being brought in by truck today as well. On the left-hand side of the screen in those blue-topped crates, those are more of the parts for that AIDA stamping press that they are installing. Also, you can see, looks like more of these man lifts and some other equipment have been stockpiled on this staging location. There's a trench with a protecting fence around that they are doing some additional plumbing work right here. And also you can see not only more parts for the AIDA stamping press all throughout this area, but you see these trucks, they're delivering what looks like components that may be either part of a gantry crane for further assembly, and also some of these SPMT or self-propelled mobile transporters to help move some of these larger components that you see in the blue and green on the left-hand side. As I climb up to the roof, you can really get a good idea of how much of the fog is rolling in. So I'll just give you a quick view of some of the solar panel installation. What we're seeing here kind of through the fog is the bottom part of the A of Tesla has now had all the solar panels installed. So this portion of the Tesla logo is completed. And at the top of the screen, and we'll fly up there in a second, they're finishing up the space between the A and the L right now, and you can see the crews have started on the bottom, they're working way up to the top, and that large white rectangular section will also have quite a bit of solar panels. Once this is installed, the entire Tesla logo itself at the middle part of the roof will be completed. I'm also proceeding over towards the body in white roof where we have this large opening with the HVAC ducts. Some of the work on the beams, it looks like it's mostly completed. The edge around the opening looks like it is also completed as well. And the grate components that will be filling in the top of this opening are arranged around the perimeter of this section where you see all of the fencing. And this is also a good view down inside to see some of the work that's going on with the installed equipment for the heating and ventilation system. And you can see the grates at the bottom of the screen. Now, since the fog is really starting to roll in, I'm going to bring the drone across the roof over to the west side, get us a little bit lower so we can get a little bit better visibility, and then I will wrap up this section of the video, and then I'm going to end up waiting what turns out to be a couple of hours until the fog clears enough to resume the flight. But here at this lower altitude, we have at least a good enough visibility to see this section where this water manifold, or where the manhole covers are on that concrete vault. There's some rework that isn't going on in this section here, possibly either repairing or adding on to more of the water pipes that go through that section. As we proceed towards the north, you can see some activity here by this ramp and opening. Looks like there's some material being delivered. Also a bunch of crates being unloaded on this trailer as well. And that's a yard truck, which means it's probably been stored on the east side and then moved over here recently. Here is another series of crates that has been delivered right next to the 4680 production facility, and some of it, especially with that wrapped silver wrapping, suggests that it may be part of the 4680 production process. So as I resume the video here, actually about 2 hours have passed since the foggy part of the video, so you can see that the visibility has greatly increased. And I'm going to pop up over on the roof here to show you the activity and also the steam rising out of these HVAC ducts, which are part of and over the 4680 production process. You can also see the work on the enclosures as well. As I come up over here, you can see a bunch of workers near where this crane is located. They've been bringing up equipment to the roof. The workers have been picking it up and then carting it to different sections of the roof for more construction. As we continue up towards the north parking lot, I'll bring the drone down. You can see the work going on in this center median between the parking spaces on the right and the road on the left. They're continuing to put forms in for the curbs, also the sidewalk. They've been finishing up some of the plumbing work as well, and overall this section is starting to get closer to what eventually will be a finished product, and then this section of work should be coming to a close here pretty soon. But right now you can see there's still some excavations going on, and they've also been bringing dirt in to fill in some of the sections as well. Now here's an interesting delivery. Wasn't able to see what they're bringing out, but it's up near where the battery cathode plant is located. Also, these two platforms are going to the third and fourth floor of this section of the building. As we continue past the plastics manufacturing, two doors on the ground level and then over to the two platforms at the paint shop, we see quite a bit of deliveries today. In the center of the screen, you see what looks to be some more red gantry cranes or bridge cranes segments brought in. More of these containers have been delivered, the tan ones. You have this truck bringing this racking system, which I think may be related to the bodies being moved around on the various production platforms. Here at the northwest corner of the casting machine structure, as we get ready to come around the corner, one of the things I want to show you, and this was pointed out by one of my Patreons, Desi Doolin, is all of these large ingots that you see right next to the ramp, and also some of the material into these containers. This is something that we've also seen at Giga Berlin. I think what this is basically surplus aluminum from the castings that has been melted back down here at the factory, and it's going to be sent off for recycling, and then they'll use it to make more of the castings. Many of which you can see on the ground right here just to the west of the casting machine structure. Now as we continue farther to the south, this is a good view of some of the work that's going on in front of these newly reconfigured receiving doors. You can see where a section of the concrete has been saw cut, and that's where that kind of fine dusty material is located. You can see the pattern of the stripes with the north and south, east and west. and that means that there's going to be more of this concrete removed. And when they do, it'll look similar to where this dirt section is, where the crews are working on some trenching for more plumbing. You can see another section's been removed near these glass secondary entrance doors, and it looks like there's a crane here as well, unloading some what looks like crane parts, to be honest with you. This also is 2 more sections that have been cut out for the concrete reconfiguration work in front of the new receiving doors. You can see that there's a framed-in trench where they are doing some work at this moment in time, and just generally finishing up the east side receiving docks. Now, as I bring the drone down by this smaller east side parking lot, you can see the supercharger installation that is going on here on the west side. There's still some more trenching going on where they have the underground conduit, but you can see those concrete bases, and they've also moved some of those white square devices onto the concrete. There's 3 more waiting here, and then another one was just put onto some more concrete. So it's interesting to see how they are installing the superchargers on this section. But they're reconfiguring this entire smaller parking lot to replicate what they had on the south end where all that concrete was removed. Also, this is a good view of the new car staging and transportation lot. I'll bring the drone down a little bit lower so you can get a good view of some of the activity here. There's quite a few of Model Ys here. A lot of them are being moved up to the north near Hutto or Taylor, Texas, where they have the railhead. And there's also a spot nearby in Austin where they are also taking some of these vehicles and staging as well. This is a good view of the warehouse on wheels here on the east side. Now, I mentioned on that west side across the highway where they were preparing what looks like a section where they can put more of the trailers. What you can see here specifically on the north end, and I'll give you a closer view in a second, is they're starting to get more and more trailers that are expanding beyond this capacity. So they're moving some of the trailers up onto the north end and displacing some of the vehicles. And we'll see that, as I said, in just a second. But this is a workshop that is modifying some of the steel components. You can see they're painting them white. And many of these are going inside not only the casting machine structure, but also on that west main entrance where they're reconfiguring a mezzanine. Here's another look at a workshop with some of the materials are in and around these trailers. And as I mentioned before, this you can see where the trailers are starting to displace vehicles in this north parking lot now. As production is increasing, they look like they are exceeding the capacity of this smaller warehouse and wheels. And this is why I think that west side is being prepared for more trailers. So let's take a look at some of the big changes that are going on here on the west side of the battery cathode plant, specifically this foundation location where they're going to be building a new 107,000 square feet single-story structure. And you can see some of the footings on the left-hand side. We'll come back for some much closer views in just a moment. But here you can see all these pipes are being assembled by the crews. They're preparing all of these various pipe segments to be suspended underneath this steel structure. You can also see another interesting wall panel that has just been delivered and has a rectangular hole cut out of it. So I'm kind of curious to see where that is going to be installed. Most likely it'll be on the second floor near where all those workers are waiting for some of the materials. I think that'll allow these pipes to come through that segment of the wall. Now, as I move the drone back towards the west side, you can see this construction work on this foundation. A lot of these white pipes have been configured for installation into the trenches, and you can also see quite a few of the footings that have been excavated out. Those are those square sections. Some of them also have the wooden formwork, and that's ahead of putting the rebar squares or the rebar sections in and then filling those with concrete, which will then eventually support columns for this building. You can also see some of the geopier work that is going on here. They've been drilling more of the bores and filling the bores up with the gravel aggregate mixture, and then that tall machine compacts it down to make these piers that are about 15 to 20 meters or about 40 to 60 feet into the ground. And this section is being expanded a little bit further to the south, and it's getting closer to where a pond used to be, and they've recently filled it in. So I think they're trying to make this entire foundation section much more rectangular, and we'll see more of these footings being installed as well. The large crane with that black drill is being used to do core sampling drilling so that they can test the strength of the steel of the soil in that particular area. They use steel bars into those bores with some concrete to kind of pull down a calibration device to test that soil. And here's a really good view now from the west looking back to the east along this entire foundation. You can see all of the activity with the geopier on the right, the footings in the middle, the trenching on the east and the north side, concrete trucks busy filling in some of the bores for that soil testing that we mentioned, and the large crane doing some more of the drilling right now. So very active site today, which is really interesting to see, and just suggests that we're going to see some vertical construction here very soon. You can also see some piles of rebar and also a growing pile of steel components here that'll be used for the structure, and we'll see more of it just north of the battery cathode plant as well. Couple things here I want to show you. On the left-hand side, the berm part of it has been removed. I noticed that underway in my previous video, but quite a bit more has been removed. You can also see this temporary structure with the white roof protecting many of those components. This has been reconstructed from what used to be on the west side of the highway, and we can see quite a bit of the materials that will be installed inside the battery cathode plant. This is a good view also showing that berm, how much has been removed. And as we pull back, I'll show you where more of the steel and other materials for that construction project are being stored right now. So it's great to see more of the steel being delivered on site. So as mentioned, we'll see some vertical construction there very soon. Now on the north end of the building, you can see trenching where they're continuing to install that blue water pipe. Now it is moving towards the west. And along the east side, near where the steel structure is, underground is where the rest of that blue water pipe was installed. Now here's a really good view of this steel control room, interior room with the plastic still being configured. You can also see some metal studs being put along the walls, and also some of the wall panels being installed on this metal structure as well. So soon we'll see all of the walls installed, some of the windows, and the roof installed as well. As we continue back towards the main plant, what we can see is not only do they have two of the temporary platforms on this side now, but you can see that they are kind of framing out the opening, very similar to what we see at the main factory. More wall panels have actually been installed, so there's fewer openings. And you can see a similar treatment here being done with the plastic around the top of this temporary platform as they are continuing to finish the assembly. But both of which will allow for equipment to be loaded up onto the third floor. So I'll pull away to give you a good view of the overall east side of the battery cathode plant construction site. As we fly towards the west, you can see that geopier where the pond used to be, some more work being done to reclaim some of the soil near the trees, this temporary pond with the liner, and also some new activity up here as well in and amongst these trailers that are used for Tesla temporary offices. And what you see here is a trench and some smaller steel corrugated pipe being prepared for installation. I think this is part of a growing water management system that'll be tied into quite a few of these steel corrugated pipes and some of the concrete pipes on the left-hand side as well. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, a lot of activity here at the electrical switch yard, so let's take a good long look at what's going on. The first thing you notice is that both of the concrete slabs for the transformers have now been completed, and crews are busy installing two more of these A-frame structures. In fact, one of them is in the process of being assembled right now. This brings to a total of 6, and there eventually will be 7 of these A-frames. And what these are for is to have the high-tension wires connected to the large power line poles that you see in the background, and then they'll route the high tension wires along the electrical switchyard and down to the transformers. And then ultimately this will power Giga-Texas. As we get a little bit closer in, this is another good view of the work going on to assemble this A-frame structure where the crane is located, and it will look very similar to the A-frame structure closest to the drone. Also some good work, views of the work going on with the transformer concrete bases as well. You can see the steel assembly, the circuit breakers, all 6 of them installed. And then down here at the bottom near this control room, we can see trenching going on. And it looks like it's extended twice the length of the control room to the north. And what this is most likely going to do is it will have the electrical conduits running underneath this section over to the electrical switchyard, and it will allow for the control room to be operational. But as I turn the drone around here, it gives a really good view of the overall construction status of the electrical switchyard, the trenching, the control room. 6 of the A-frames now installed, all of the 6 of the large circuit breakers, and then more of the steel vertical components, insulators, and breaker bars. But here's a good view also of the north end. It looks like there's a little bit of earthwork starting up here, which is great to see. You can see the remnants of all of the water in the pond we've been getting recently, and just overall how this section of the factory appears. So that's it for today. Started off very foggy. I was able to come back in and fly again before the fog returns. I hope you enjoyed this and have a great weekend. Thank you very much.